Hello and welcome to a new episode of Holy Shiitake, our live show. Today is our episode 17. I think my mic
All
is not
right.
quite loud enough. There we go. How's everybody doing? I am Flo from Vancouver, Canada.
And and.
Who are you?
Oh, me? I am Jay from Japan.
And we're joined by Jay from Japan, as always, for our live shows. If you want to listen to this show in audio format, we are on Google Play, iTunes, and Spotify. This will go up probably on Wednesday. You can also view this on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Holy Shiitake, where we post new videos every Wednesday evening Pacific time or like Thursday morning for Europe and Asia. And yeah, what are we going to be talking about today, Jay?
Well, today we're going to talk about the life of foreigners in Hokkaido. Actually, am I going to say something? Or are you going to say something?
It doesn't really matter. Yes, go ahead.
So, one of our viewers of our page actually sent us a message asking about what life is in Hokkaido because I think she's planning to move here with her family.
Right. So I'm showing the message on screen right now. Indeed, someone who is asking about, was saying that her next bucket list will be to be visiting Hokkaido, and they wanted us to kind of talk about it and see, what there is to do there, like how hard it is to move, and kind of talk about it. So we're gonna be doing that today. Thank you. What's her name already? I forget.
Milka. Her name is Milka.
There we go. So thank you, Milka. I blurred out the name and the information that I just had the message. Thank you, Milka, for your message. We much appreciate it. Those watching us, if you have questions, just don't hesitate to comment in the live chat here. And if you're watching this later, just send us a message here or on Twitter or on YouTube, and we will do. Yeah, we might actually do something with that. All right.
Right. Actually, Milka is also a Filipina.
Milka is a Filipina. All right, cool. I did not know that.
I was really flattered that she really took the time to give us a message. And she mentioned that she's from the Philippines and she often visits Japan almost every year. So you can imagine how she loves the country.
Wow.
Right. And I think from her further messages, she had been to several cities of Japan, namely Tokyo, Osaka, and probably other big cities around Japan. And she had been visiting the country for, as what I mentioned a while ago, almost every year. And although she haven't really been to Hokkaido, and according to her message, she had heard or she had learned from her research that one of the reasons why she is wondering to move to Hokkaido is because of the benefit of being able to speak English in Hokkaido, because according to her, a lot of people in Hokkaido can speak in English, which can be very comfortable or convenient for the foreigners. And let's find out. Yeah.
Yeah, I was we're probably gonna talk about this during the show, but like, are there really that many people who speak English in Hokkaido? Is that a thing?
Well, her question and her information had given me a lot of interest. That's why we decided to do this episode, especially for her. So once again, thank you, Milka, for giving us that very interesting question. And now, without further ado, let's answer her important question,
All right.
which can also benefit a lot of listeners around here, especially if you guys are planning to move in Japan, particularly in Hokkaido. Okay, so first let's talk about what it really is to live in Hokkaido. One of the things that really give a big impact to me living here as a foreigner is, number one, the climate. Right?
The climate.
Yes.
So we kind of talked about it in previous shows before, and we were basically saying there were like 3 seasons. So there was summer for like about a month, and then what was it, fall for about 2 weeks, and then the rest was winter.
Yes.
Something like that. I don't exactly remember, but yeah.
Yeah, guys, so we talked about a lot of things about life in Hokkaido particularly. Especially last year, we talked about how cold it is here. But yeah, going back, living here for already 6 years next year.
Wow, already 6 years?
Yeah. And being a Filipino living in a country that only has two seasons, namely summer and rainfall. Yeah, rainfall is a season in the Philippines.
That makes
It's
me
a big,
laugh every
yeah.
time. I'm sorry, that makes me laugh every time. Summer and rain season.
But it's true. Yeah. For a Filipino like me, I can withstand, right? I can withstand a cold weather of 20 degrees Celsius.
That's cold?
Yes, for a Filipino, yes, and that's no joke. 20 degrees Celsius. How is that in Fahrenheit? How cold is that? How cold is that in Fahrenheit?
I don't actually know because I don't use Fahrenheit here. Let me see. 20 C in F. So that would be 68 Fahrenheit.
68 degrees Fahrenheit for those living in America and haven't been to Hokkaido. Yeah, 20 degrees Celsius or 68 degrees Fahrenheit is particularly not even spring, summer in Hokkaido.
Okay.
So,
Like,
guys, yeah.
For us here in Canada, at least in BC, where I live in Vancouver, like 20 degrees would be like end of spring, early summer, typically.
Oh, yeah, it's same here in Hokkaido.
Yeah.
So those months probably around, hold on, April, but not April. Is it May to June?
Yeah.
From late May to early June. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for ordinary people here in Hokkaido, the locals, it's fine. And to them, it's the perfect weather, the perfect temperature. But for people like me, it's okay. But if the winds are strong, I don't want to go out.
Starting to feel cold for you. Yeah.
Yeah, because Hokkaido is a very large prefecture, if you guys don't know. So if you look at the map.
I'm actually going to throw that on the map right now. Indeed.
Yes. So we searched for a map of Japan, and the one in pink, is that pink?
That is pink.
The one in pink color is all of Hokkaido, and that is just one prefecture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so huge that the land, is that landscape, land measure, land?
Yeah.
God, I don't know my English. The measurement of the land is so wide that cities in Hokkaido are also wide, meaning there's a lot of space for Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cold, and even the cities are not even warm enough for the entire for the entire year.
Right.
And the reason why climate for me is a big factor is because, as what Flo had mentioned a while ago, the first 3 seasons, spring, summer, and autumn, are very short, probably around just 2 months, and spring is around 2 weeks.
I was gonna say from like a couple of weeks to maybe a couple of months.
Yeah, and it's not like and the other half, 6 months, is winter, and it's so difficult to bear the winter in Hokkaido.
It gets very cold, right?
Yeah, it gets very cold, and just so you know, guys, even locals in Hokkaido hate winter in Hokkaido. Isn't that ironic?
That's funny. It's that cold. Even people living there, like, they're still not used to it.
Right. Like even my fiance is not even a fan of winter in Hokkaido. Now your question is, so why are they living here? One big factor is most of them are born here in Hokkaido, so they don't have a choice. And because they're so used to the cold weather of Hokkaido, they can't go south.
Right.
Like they can't bear the heat in the south. So the southern part of Japan from Aomori, so Aomori is like the closest to Hokkaido. It's also almost the same temperature of Hokkaido, but going down from Sendai to Tokyo is okay. But during the summer, it's so hot, like unbearably hot. And the hottest weather in Japan is in the further south, which is Osaka and Nagoya. Nagoya is in the centermost of the country. And as most locals say, which is kind of weird to me, Nagoya is the hottest and most uncomfortable. Yeah?
Really? I mean, it's the hottest and most uncomfortable for, I guess, from the perspective of people living in Hokkaido, right?
Even in Nagoya.
Even in Nagoya? Okay.
Even in Nagoya, yeah. Because like I have a friend in Nagoya, and she says summer in Nagoya is unbearable, like almost 39 degrees Celsius.
That's pretty. Yeah, that's pretty warm. That would be too much for me. I would melt.
Oh,
dude! Like every time we go over 30 here, like I'm dying.
Oh. Yeah. I'm sorry, Flo. I'm sorry that you have to feel that. To me, it's nothing.
Yeah, to you it's pretty usual. Yeah, I don't know. It's just me. I don't really do well with heat. Like that's why like kind of time between spring and summer, like spring, early summer when it's like 20, 25, like that's good for me. I like that.
I like it too.
Yeah.
Except that if there are strong winds, no. The thing though is that on the southern part of Japan, winds are not so cold, but in Hokkaido, the winds are really cold, even during summer. Like seriously, I can't even during summer in Hokkaido, I can't even enjoy the waters. Like going to the beach, I can't swim in the beach in Hokkaido because it's so cold.
Because when you get out of the water, then there's the wind and you get frozen in place.
It's not just that. You touch the water using your feet, it's cold as ice.
Oh.
Which is surprising, right?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I guess, yeah. I don't really know anything about the currents and the wind patterns and stuff for that area.
You don't like the sea.
For that area of the world, so I don't really know. I don't mind the sea. I'm not like super big on it. I mean, I live right by it. I'm in Vancouver, but
yeah,
it's not like I like watching it. I don't necessarily like going in it. That makes sense. You know?
Yeah. Let's move to the language, which is especially the question of Milka. Yes, we do have a lot of English-speaking Japanese in Hokkaido, but I would say it's only particularly in a place called Niseko.
Okay. What's Niseko?
So Niseko is a popular gaijin island for gaijins or foreigners.
You're funny. It's a gaijin island.
It's a gaijin. I call it gaijin island. So Niseko is near my first hometown in Kyogoku in Hokkaido.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually have a picture of that. Unfortunately, we're showing the winter part because what's Hokkaido? Hokkaido equals winter. But anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, plus it's a mountain resort kind of thing, right? So
yeah. So Niseko is a very, very tiny community. It's like I can't even measure the area, but just think of one city in Tokyo. Let's say Akihabara or Shibuya, just one city.
Yeah.
And Niseko is even smaller than that.
Wow.
Right?
It's like almost, it's almost like, I mean, when you compare to, I don't want to say traditional, but like some of the bigger cities in Japan, Niseko is almost more like of a village than actual city.
Yes.
Okay.
So now that you mentioned that, Niseko is actually a village, I would say rather, because it's really a small area. And yes, I do agree. There are a lot of English-speaking Japanese people there. just because it's a known village for foreigners and people working there need to speak in English.
Right. It's a pretty popular tourist attraction, right? For people visiting Japan, they go to Niseko because of the mountains, because of the resort there. They go skiing and all that things, right? So I guess that's why they kind of have to speak English more,
Right.
because of all those
Right.
foreigners that go there specifically for that, right?
Exactly. Well, having an experience to live in Kyogoku, which is like a 20-minute drive from Niseko, I've been to Niseko almost every year.
Mhm.
Well, not almost every year. I've been to Niseko every year in 4 years. And yeah, they do. They do have a lot of locals who speak in English. But again, it's only for business purposes.
Right.
I did met a lot of friends, Japanese friends who can speak in English. Another thing I can consider is that these people are open or have experiences in living and in living in other countries
Okay.
and experience in in having a life with foreigners.
Okay.
But in general, I cannot really say that Hokkaido has a lot of English speaking people because think about it. Hokkaido is a big prefecture. And yes, we do know there are several cities there, Sapporo, Asaikawa, Kushiro, Wakanai, and so many other cities. But
Okay.
most of the people there are not exposed to foreigners.
Mm.
So you cannot, yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because no, we've known each other for a long time and we've been there for a while now, and it feels like, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like Hokkaido is more kind of isolated compared to
Yeah.
maybe what people perceive of Japan. And a lot of people think of
Right.
Japan, they think Tokyo, they think Nagoya, they think those big cities, and Hokkaido is kind of like the more traditional, slower countryside of things, right?
Exactly.
Mm. So
Right.
like thinking that to me it feels like almost surprising to hear that some like people actually speak English in Hokkaido, because like when I compare to my home country from Europe, in France, if you go to Paris, you'll have no problem finding someone who speaks English. You'll have no problem. Like a lot of the workers, or public workers and stuff, they speak English. You can go to the train stations. Everybody, like in every hotel, they speak English. So you'll have no problem. But if you go in a countryside in another country, you're gonna have like a few more problems actually finding people who speak English properly. Like you'll be able to communicate, especially nowadays where I know it's a bit more common. But
Right.
like if you get out of the big cities in France, you're gonna have like, and if you don't like know a few words of French, or like if you don't have ways to communicate with people, if you only have English,
Right.
it will be a little difficult. Not impossible, but a little difficult. So like that's kind of how I was maybe feeling and thinking about Hokkaido. I was kind of looking at it this way, whereas you can go speak English and you will find people who speak English,
Right.
but don't necessarily expect everybody to just understand you as soon as you start speaking English.
That's true. Guys, I'm not discouraging you to move to Hokkaido. In fact, I've been here for 6 years and I don't have plans to move outside Hokkaido. I love Hokkaido, but that's because it's my personal preference.
Mm-hmm.
And, it had been very difficult for me to live here. In fact, it was very hard for me to learn Japanese because I'm that dumb. and,
No, you're not. You're not dumb. Japanese is a very difficult language to learn. No, we've oh wait, we haven't aired that episode yet, but we have a video coming up at some point soon where we talk about learning Japanese, and no, it's difficult.
Yeah. In that episode, we're going to explain how we personally learn Japanese. But again, that's another episode. So please, what?
Yes, just subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/Holy Shiitake, where this video will be posted in a few weeks. I can't remember what the schedule is, but it's coming up soon. And so if you want to see it first, just subscribe, ring the bell and everything.
All right. Ring
A
the bell and everything.
little bit of self-promo there in the middle of it.
But so yeah, going back, where are we?
Okay, so
We're talking
yeah.
we're talking about like how it is with the language, right? So yes, if you do live particularly close to Niseko, especially if you're a very friendly individual like me, self-praise, you can meet a lot of friends, Japanese, foreigners, people who love to meet foreigners. Yeah, you will meet a lot of friends.
Yeah.
But if you do live outside Niseko, even in Sapporo, because I currently live in Sapporo right now, it's very difficult to find your own community.
Yeah.
Really difficult. Like I had to really adjust my own culture and even practicing my Japanese just to make the locals feel not intimidated because I'm a foreigner. And just a heads up, guys. In Tokyo, Osaka, and the other big cities of Japan, yeah, a lot of people there don't speak English or can't really speak English, but because a lot of foreigners are so common in that area, they try to help you.
Right.
In the countryside in Hokkaido, I do have to say that people there are really, really friendly in the countryside in Hokkaido. Unfortunately, if you're in the big cities, they're not as warm.
Okay.
They're not
That's
as
interesting.
warm. Yeah.
But I can't really say I'm surprised either. Again, like it's kind of something that I also feel again in my home country in France. It's not so true here in Canada. I feel that everybody here in Canada is really, really friendly, pretty open, even in big cities.
Right.
Maybe it's just a Canadian thing. But back home,
Let's talk about Canada. No, just kidding.
I'm sure we will at some point. But back home in France, that's kind of how it felt as well. I was born in a small town in the south of the country, kind of in the countryside, and I moved to Paris and lived in Paris for quite a while when I grew up, and I had the same feeling. It's like, I don't know, people, especially in the south of France, like they're really nice, really warm, really open, and as soon as you go into the big city, you go in Paris, everybody is just like, I don't want to say like an asshole, but kind of. See what I mean?
Ah, right.
Right. So I don't know if it's like a big city thing or if it's just no, because big cities are huge, there are a lot of people, it's stressful. I don't know, man. I don't know what the reason is, but
I think it is. I think it has something to do with big cities because whenever I visit Tokyo, I don't know, man. There are a lot of a-holes in there.
Yeah.
There are really a lot of a-holes in there. Like one time I got lost in Shinjuku. Of all the places, of course you'll get lost in Shinjuku. Shinjuku is like one of the biggest cities in Tokyo. And so I tried to look for help. And there's this guy standing next to me. And I did my best to speak in Japanese. And I was like, could you please help me how to get in the station? And he's like, okay, hold on. And I'm like, please, I don't have much time. And he's like, hold on. And I was like, okay. And I was like that. But I mean, it's a big city thing, probably.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, anyway, going back to Sapporo, the city itself, I would say it's very convenient to live here if you don't mind not driving. And if you love the city life, it's great. But if you're not a fan of the city life like me, and you would say, why are you there in the first place? Oh, it's a long story. But anyway, yeah, living in Sapporo is pretty convenient. But if you get homesick easily, it would be quite difficult because, compared with Tokyo and other big cities in Japan, you can have a lot of gaijin or foreign communities in there, and they will help you out. But here in Hokkaido, especially in Sapporo, it's hard to find your communities because even the foreigners here, I'm not saying all, but a lot of foreigners here don't even want to be friends with you.
Yeah, which is weird because you're all in here, like in a foreign country.
Right.
No, that's not your own country. Like it's a completely different culture. And like why would you not want to help someone who is new into that thing, especially if you've been here for a while, right?
Exactly.
That's
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, I did meet a lot of friends here in Sapporo, but you can't expect them to be there with you all the time. In
that's
fact,
true.
I've only been with these people for like what? Once a month or even once in 6 months.
Right.
And for the rest of your life, you're alone, right? Again, disclaimer, I'm not discouraging you guys to not to move here, but I'm just saying the heads up
Right.
and if you can deal with it. Because to me, I've dealt with it, but not in an easy way. I've dealt with it in the hardest, excruciating way. Because I've both lived in the city and the countryside, so
Right.
I've experienced both worlds.
That's true. I was gonna say you've seen really both sides of Hokkaido. You've like been in the middle of nowhere for a while, and now you're in the middle of a big city.
Right. And it's like a black and white kind of situation. Yeah, so living to me in my experience, living in Sapporo is quite convenient physically.
Right.
It's quite convenient physically. But if you are expecting communications with people or have a friendly community, you have to try hard.
Yeah.
Like you really have to try hard. And because the weather here is oftentimes cloudy, probably because it's located in the north and it's kind of like Canada because, like half of the year is winter. It's very hard to not feel sad.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. What's it called? Seasonal depression. That's what it's called.
There you go.
That's a real thing, especially over there when it's cold most of the year and it's going to be rainy and snowy and all that.
Right.
It can be a little difficult, which is interesting to me because so one of the concerns from Milka was about the language, right? But but as it turns out, it's like you shouldn't be worried too much about the language, except for the fact that you most likely will have to learn some Japanese and learn to communicate in Japanese and stuff like that. But
Right.
but the more, to me, like from what I hear, like the more difficult things about it is not necessarily the language, but really the culture. It's a culture shock. It's being alone. It's not having a lot of people that are like
Right.
you living there. That to me is the bigger hurdle. That's the more difficult thing to
Yeah.
do. But this being said, and you're living proof of that, it's definitely not. It's definitely
Still alive.
still alive. Yeah, it's not impossible. Like
Right.
anybody can do it if you're ready to kind of work for it, right? Like it's not because you're a foreigner, no matter where you're coming from. Like you will not be able to just go there and then just sit there and then everything will go just fine. Like you're gonna have to work a little bit for it.
Yeah, it's really a task. I would say it's a task because in your everyday life, so you're working, you're buying groceries and all that stuff. You even have to worry about what to wear. This is a serious situation. You have to be aware of the weather, everyday weather, because weather in Hokkaido changes every hour. Like seriously. I'm not kidding. There was one time
I'll believe you.
I'm sure it's similar in Canada. There was one time I was about to go to work, and then I looked at my app, and it says, "Oh, it's going to be sunny all day." Lo and behold, in the middle of my trip in the bus, suddenly there's, I forgot my umbrella. I'm like, wow. But yeah, it's a real situation in Hokkaido. Okay, so again, you have to really work on your communication skills. You need to improve your Japanese. Whether you like it or not, guys, you have to learn Japanese.
But
you can get away with, yeah.
Sorry, but the cool thing about it is that, okay, so like, I'm imagining if you're planning to go to Japan and live there for a certain amount of time,
right?
You already know that you're gonna have to learn some Japanese, so you're probably already learning Japanese, or like you've taken some classes, or maybe you've been learning Japanese for years. Maybe you already know some Japanese. So like, I'm going from that mindset, right? Like, I'm not expecting anybody to go to Japan to live there, to just go, oh, I don't need Japanese, like, because most people do know that. But the cool thing about it, and that's kind of true for every language, is that when you go there and you have some Japanese with you, like like you kind of know a little bit of Japanese when you go there, you will improve a lot just by living there.
That's true.
Because the thing about it is that you're not going to have a choice.
Yeah.
Either you improve your Japanese or you're going to have a really bad time.
True. That is so true.
Right?
Oh my God. Yeah, I do have one friend. She's also Filipina, and she's been working in Sapporo for like almost 6 years too. And
wow.
She's very brave, right? She's very brave not to learn any Japanese at all.
How does she do it? Like
I know, right?
The only way I could see someone live in Japan and really not bothering about learning Japanese would be, one, if they work for a company where they basically don't have to go out and they only interact with people in their own language. So like, let's say you're a US citizen, you work for a US firm, US company in Japan, and all you do is go from your home to your workplace and you only interact with people from the US, right?
Right.
So I could see that, or I don't know, like how do you do it?
I also asked the same thing to my friend, and she's like, oh, it's okay. I'm in Sapporo. People try to compromise with me, and I'm still here. I can still buy whatever I like. I can go to the hospital on my own. But the thing is, it's doable, guys. It's doable. It's just that you really need to have a thick face to do that. No, Irene, I'm not saying my friend is an a-hole. It's just that, dude, please be a little considerate to the locals. I mean, they try hard to deal with you. Yeah. Maybe it's okay because you're a customer, but they won't deal with that if you're a friend.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say this, but I guess you can get away not learning Japanese at all if you're in Sapporo, because every season, right? Sapporo is like one of the most popular cities in Hokkaido for tourists.
That's true. Yeah.
Right? So tourists expect that there are a number of Japanese people who can speak in English, but that's not true. Most Japanese people prefer not to speak in English at all. Right? So, yeah, it's true that they have to, in terms of business, tourism thing. But then again, I think it's also your responsibility as an immigrant, I guess, to move to the country and learn the language, right? I mean, it's totally okay also that you don't have any education of the language. Like me, I came here. I did learn for 3 months of practice writing the days of the week.
Right.
In 3 months. But you really need to be forced to learn.
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter. Yeah,
that's the thing, is like, you're not, if you move there, you're not expected to speak, read, and understand Japanese fluently. That's not the expectation. But what you should be doing is like have at least a little bit of understanding. Know a few things, so you have ways to interact with people. living there in that language, right? And so you're not completely lost. Like, learn a really basic things, like learn the sign for the station, learn the sign for the kind of food that you eat,
Right.
learn of directions, learn like time of the day or stuff like that, right? So when you interact with someone, if you have a question and you need to go from point A to point B, and you can say what your point B is without having to like spend 2 hours trying to explain where it is, kind of thing, right? Like, just little things.
Right.
You don't necessarily have to speak Japanese fluently, because again, if you're really interested, in living there, like, your Japanese will improve whether you want it or not, because
That's true.
you're gonna be immersed in it. So you're gonna pick up on things. Like, even if you don't go with the mindset of, oh, I need to learn Japanese, you will anyway, just from hearing people or just from seeing the signs and all that stuff, right?
Right. And you'll just be surprised. Like for me, I know I'm a slow learner. I learned how to speak after 2 years. God, 2 years. Some people learn how to speak in 6 months. But I guess it depends on how you are and as an individual. If you're a fast learner, and how you apply it, how you study it. You can study it on your own. You can study it with people. You can study it with your coworkers. It would really depend.
Right.
And yeah, it would really depend, especially on the area you plan to move. Just so you know, guys, another factor that you have to consider is if you are living in the countryside, you have to drive. You have to learn how to drive. Why? It's because transportation outside Sapporo is very difficult. It's very, very difficult. Trains are scheduled every 2 hours. Every 2 hours. So like if you're coming from the countryside and you plan to go to the city, you need to wait like 2 hours for another train to come.
Yeah, you really need, like, if that's your only mode of transportation, you really need to plan around that. If you're living in the countryside and you need to go to Sapporo, you need to be like, okay, I'm taking the train at that time, and that means I have this much time to do my stuff, because I have trains at like 6 and I have one at 8, so like I need to be done before that, kind of thing, right? So
right.
whereas if you drive, you can just do whatever you want, and for that I will just kind of plug in the episode we had about driving in Japan on our YouTube channel, where we learn about all the adventures that Jay went through to get her driver's license.
Oh God, that story, yeah.
It was a fun one. I enjoyed it. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to wrap it up, because we're losing time right now, it's just sad because this whole topic is really interesting and I've got a lot of things to say. But to wrap it up, because I'm here, I'd say living in Hokkaido is amazing. Like seriously, I enjoy my life here. Probably because my preferences are in Hokkaido, which is number one, you can enjoy nature. It's amazing. Number two, I love driving. And driving means you have the capacity to travel in just one prefecture, in a huge prefecture, whenever you want, if you have a car.
Right.
But if you do plan to use the airport or to take the train, it's okay, but it could be very expensive. But again, it's doable. Another factor is that you can really, really improve your Japanese because you have no choice.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
And you can learn a lot from the locals, like really a lot. Hokkaido people are amazing, in my opinion. Hokkaido people are amazing. It's just that you really have to understand what kind of people they are because they're very different from the other parts of Japan. They are like special people. Special people. What else? Yeah, I would say Hokkaido is amazing. But if you plan to move here, you need to have the guts. You need to have a lot of courage and you need to use your brain all the time.
Yeah, it's definitely a different environment from what most people are used to. We often joke about how Japan is so different, and with like some memes and stuff like only in Japan. But I mean, there is some truth to it, right? If you're living in the US, Japan is like so different. If you're living in Europe, it's like let's not even talk about it. Uh, and even from countries that are not closer to Japan in Asia, if you look at the Philippines, if you look at difference in cultures between the Philippines and Japan, and it's like what, 2 hours flight from Japan? It's not even that. It's not
Right.
even that far, but there is such a big contrast in culture, in people, and the way you do things. So if you plan to move to Japan, especially in Hokkaido, you have to be ready mentally for that kind of culture shock.
Right. For the 2 hours thing, it's a big plane. Okay. For the low cost carrier, it's 6 hours.
Okay.
If there are people who would comment on that, but yeah. Anyway, so
I don't know. I never flew to Japan from the Philippines, but yeah.
So Milka, I hope we have answered your questions. But if you do have further questions, don't hesitate to ask more from us, and we would gladly answer your questions. And for those who are listening also, if you have some personal questions, don't hesitate to ask us.
Right. You can ask any questions you have, either in comments on the videos themselves, either on the Facebook page or on the YouTube videos. You can also contact us on Twitter, Instagram. You can just find us pretty much everywhere. We're easy to find. And yeah, give us some ideas. Ask us some questions, and we'll talk about it either on a live show or in future videos on YouTube. If you don't subscribe to us on YouTube, you can do that now. Click subscribe and click on the bell to get notified of every video. We upload a new video every week. And yeah, but what I'm taking from the whole thing we've talked about for what we've been in for a bit over half an hour, for almost 45 minutes, is that moving to Japan, and particularly to Hokkaido, can be difficult, but in the end, it's worth it.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a lesson we can learn from that. It's difficult. We're gonna have to. I don't want to say necessarily sacrifice a lot of things, but a little bit. A little bit, at least some of your time, because you're gonna have to do some things that maybe you're not used to. You're gonna have to learn some things you don't necessarily know, and but in the end, Hokkaido is a beautiful place. A lot of things to see, especially if you like nature. A lot of good people, so definitely worth it.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I guess that's all. Maybe.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right, well, that will be all for our show today. Thank you for those who stopped by. Razel, I see you there. You haven't commented since the beginning, but that's okay. Thank you for all those who were here. Once again, you can follow us on all the social media, Twitter, Facebook, what is there? Instagram, all those things. Links will be either on our profile on Facebook or in the description on YouTube. You can also subscribe to us on youtube.com/Holy Shiitake. If you want to know more and learn more about Jay's experience in Hokkaido, you can also read and follow her blog, JapaneseMenudo.com. You can find me on social media at fsanporte and on twitch.tv/fsanporte, where I stream some video games. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Jay, for sharing. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So Razel, that's my teacher. That's my high school teacher. So thank you for watching, and I'm so glad that you are here with us.
Nice.
And I hope the Philippines is doing well right now.
All right. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. All right.
Yeah. So nice. Teacher Razel, hello, and thank you for listening to us.
Nice. All right, that will be all for us, guys. Thank you for watching, and we will see you all on the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.